to our first video in the series of tutorials on C programming. This is Gauri Naik speaking for Logic's Computer Academy. C is one of the most popular programming languages even today, as you must be already knowing since you're on this video. This is because C is used for creating computer games. It's also used to create softwares like antivirus programs, and it's used to program practically all electronics like robots, ATM machines, microwaves, security systems, and a host of other things. Here I have an IDE called Code Blocks in which we'll be writing our C programs. It's a very popular and modern IDE. It's easy to install and use, and you'll find a lot of help online. As you go through this video, you will learn the meaning of many programming terms and the syntax of C programming and how to run a program successfully after removing all your errors. So let's get started. The first line says #include stdio.h. stdio.h is a header file in C, and that's why it has an extension of .h. The compiler first processes this file so that it understands the instructions that you have given in your program, because some of these instructions or functions are built into the file stdio.h. Let's see what a compiler is. The compiler is a program that converts your source code into machine code. The source code which you have written is in an English-like language, which the machine does not understand. The machine understands only bits of zeros and ones. So your code has to be converted into the machine code in order for the program to run. And this is the work of the compiler. Now let's see what we have written in this program. We have written the first line as #include stdio.h. Include is a preprocessor directive. So whatever you write after include will be processed first before processing the program. This is necessary because the compiler reads the standard library functions which are included in this file, so that when you use these same functions in your program, the compiler knows how to run these functions or how to execute these functions. So one of the functions which is a standard library function present in the stdio.h is the Printf function. Now let's see what are functions. A function is indicated by parentheses. So let's call these as brackets. So when you see these open close brackets, it means that this is a function. So main is a function. A function is a piece of code or a block of code written to perform a particular task. So here we have written a function called the main, and this is the body of the main, which is enclosed within curly brackets. So these braces show that this is the block of the main that we have defined. So the main is a user-defined function, since the user or us has defined this function. There are other kinds of functions called the built-in functions. You can see here that printf is a function because it has open close brackets like this. It is written with parentheses, as I said earlier. So printf also is a function, but printf is a built-in function. It is built into stdio.h. So when we just write printf, the compiler knows that it has to print on the screen. We haven't written here how to print on the screen. This is because this explanation is already written inside the stdio.h. So the printf function prints whatever you have written in these codes as it is. This is called a string literal. So whatever you write in quotes will be printed as it is, except for this. This is %d, which stands for an integer. This is a format specifier for an integer. So it will print the sum is and it will print an integer. This is called an escape sequence, that is a new line. So when it prints the integer, the cursor goes to a new line. Now let's see what we have written in this program. As I explained earlier, main is a function and this is the body of the main. Inside the main, we have written a program to add two numbers. Here the first line says int a is equal to 6, b is equal to 7 and c. This means that we are asking the computer to take any random address and call it as a. Let's take that random address as 3440. So any address is taken which is empty and called as a. Another address is also taken and called as b. So we have declared that we want 3 addresses to be taken. So int a is equal to 6, which means that the number 6 has to be assigned to the address a. So a is an address which will contain the number 6, b is an address which will contain the number 7, and then we have written c is equal to a plus b. So c will contain the addition of a plus b. So when we think of addresses as a, b and c, the compiler thinks of these addresses in terms of their address numbers. The names that we have given to the addresses are called as variable names. An address is also called as a variable. It's called as a variable because you can change the content inside this address at any point of time in the program. So maybe a may contain 6 in the beginning of the program, and somewhere during the course of the program you may change the value of a to some other value. So the names that you have given to these addresses have certain rules when you give them. An address name can have alphabets or numbers, but no special characters except the underscore. It also cannot be a keyword. Keywords are words that are understood by the compiler. For example, main, as you saw, is a keyword. Int, as you saw, is a keyword. Here, the first address name is radius. It's absolutely fine because it starts with an alphabet, and address names can be up to 30 characters long. The second address is M3. This is also a valid variable name because this starts with an alphabet, although it has a number inside. This is also valid because it starts with an underscore. Now let's see what are invalid variable names. The first one, radius of circle, is invalid because it contains a special character, and that is a space. So there are spaces which are not allowed in variable names. This is invalid because it starts with a number. So an address name cannot start with a number, but it can start with an underscore. The third one is invalid because no special characters are allowed except the underscore. So you see, these are the valid and invalid variable names. Also remember, you cannot use keywords while you name your variables. So let's see what's the next line of the program. The program says take 3 variables a, b, c, assign 6 to a assign 7 to B and keep C as it is. It means that C will contain some garbage value from the previous program. Int, which means the data type of these variables, is going to be an int. Let's see which are the data types that we will input when we write programs. Basically, there are 4 data types in C: float, double, and char. These data types have format specifiers. So the format specifier for an int is %d, format specifier for a float is %f, for a double it's %e and lf, and there are some more, and for a char it's %c. So when we are using int, we'll be using the format specifier %d. So let's see the next line of the program, which says C is equal to A plus B. So whatever are the contents of A and B are added and assigned to C. The equal to is an assignment symbol. It does not mean that C is equal to this. It means that whatever is on the right hand side of the equal to is put into the left hand side, which is usually an address. So the right hand side may have an expression, and after this expression is evaluated, the result will be assigned to the address called C. The next line is the printf function. So we call the printf function and we ask it to print this message on the screen: the sum is. We also use the format specifier for an int new line and character. That means the cursor will go to the new line. We could put a new line over here as well. Now this %d, which is a format specifier for an integer, will be replaced with the contents of the address C. So here you can see that the word C has been written outside the quotes because it is an address. If we had written it inside the quotes, then C would have been printed as the word C, which has no meaning. So whatever are the contents of C are printed in this place. And then the program returns 0. This return 0 is an indication to the compiler that the program has run successfully. So when we return an integer, we write int near the main so that the compiler returns a 0 to the operating system, indicating that this program has run successfully. So this is the way a simple program in C is written. Now let's write a program where we take the input from the user and then see the result. So here we would take the radius of the circle and print the area and the perimeter of the circle. Let's take the radius of the circle as a float. So we could say float radius. We'll need another address called area and another address called circumference, in which we will calculate the circumference of the circle. We need to take the input from the user, so we need to call the printf function and ask the user to enter the radius. When the user enters the radius, it will be taken as a float and assigned to the address radius. So the scanf is a function which is built into stdio.h. It helps us to take the input from the user Here we are taking the input as a float and assigning it to the address. This ampersand stands for address radius. Now starts the calculations. So area is equal to pi into radius into radius. The compiler does not know what is pi, so it's always better that you define a macro like so, and this is a macro, which means that when the compiler sees the word pi, it will replace it with 3.1416. This is useful because if we have used 3.1416 at many places in our program and then later on we need to change this value, then we have to search for it throughout the program. If we write it here, then any change made over here will be reflected throughout the program. So area is equal to pi into radius into radius. We give the calculation for the circumference, which is 2 pi r, that is 2 into pi into radius. So we start by declaring the variables, that is the addresses we require. Then we take the input from the user. Then we show what processing has to be done. And then we show the output to the user. So printf on a new line, the area is, and the format specifier for an area, and let's print this on a new line. So \n and the circumference is %f, which is the format specifier for the circumference, and we print the contents of area and the circumference. So here you can see that this %f will be replaced by the contents of the address area, and this %f will be replaced by the contents of the address circumference. We have declared them as float and hence we have used %f here. Let's run this program and see. First of all, when you need to run, you need to build and run the program. So click on build and run, and you will see that it's asking you to enter the radius of the circle. So we enter the radius as 2.3, and here you can see that it has printed the area as well as the circumference. Hope you found this explanation easy to understand and you could write many such programs on your own. Hope you will subscribe to all our videos. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you.